You're listening to the Packernet Podcast Network.
U.S. Cellular has noticed the way we use our phones has gotten ironic. We try to put our phones down for dinner, but the menu's on a QR code. That's ironic. We hit like on social posts that we don't actually like, which is ironic. Which is why U.S. Cellular created Us Mode, to help us reconnect with each other and use our phones less ironically. A phone company wanting people to use their phones less is ironic. Let's find us again with Us Mode from U.S. Cellular. Visit uscellular.com/built-for-us to get started.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. From the launch your online shop stage, all the way to the we just hit 1 million orders stage. No matter what stage you're in, Shopify's there to help you grow. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/special offer, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/special offer.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Packernet Podcast. I am your host and resident fanalist, as always, Ryan Schlip. Check us out online, packernet.com. Find me on Twitter, pack_dadam. Well, the season has officially started, and, sorry, slight interruption there, just as we get started. I want to jump into things because the season has started, but let's get to some news and notes here. First of all, Ricky Pearsall, wide receiver for the 49ers, was shot in the chest by a 17-year-old out in the San Francisco area, or in San Francisco, I don't really know. Apparently, it was pretty touch and go. Now, that's coming from a Reddit report from somebody who calls himself essentially a fake reporter, so I don't know. But Jeff Kirby said, from what I've been told from sources on the Ricky Pearsall story, it's initially didn't look good, but emergency staff were optimistic and now is critical but stable. And then there was a release by the 49ers. 49ers wide receiver Ricky Pearsall was released from the hospital this afternoon as he continues to recover from a bullet wound to the chest. So, anyways, just wanted to touch on that very briefly. Obviously, wishing him the best, praying for him, his family, etc. Very scary situation. According to, I think, his mom, the bullet passed through his chest and out his back without hitting any major organs or whatnot. Obviously, your first concern, you got heart and lungs right there. So I don't know how nothing got seriously injured. And it essentially was just a bleeding issue. But my goodness, just very, very happy that didn't turn into something. Additionally, I wanted to touch on this as well. Apparently, the NFL did bring up the issue of electronically, gauging the first down, trying to do that electronically. I have said for a while, I think that's more complicated than people say. Just put a chip in the ball. What part of the ball? The tip? Both tips? The side? It would have to be kind of the whole thing, right? Because if any part of the ball crosses, you would need to know that. So I don't know exactly how that would work. Of course, I want to move in that direction. I just don't think it's as simple as people make it out to be. You'd have to chip every single ball. There's a lot of balls. The balls become significantly more expensive. You got guys chucking, instead of these, $20 footballs or whatever they are, they're chucking these now $1,000, $400 footballs into the stands. They're going to get broke every second with these footballs just getting smashed and everything. I don't know, but apparently the NFL has decided that they're not ready for it yet. It says the electronic first down tracking system could potentially be implemented as early as the 2025 regular season. The NFL will likely continue testing and improving the system during the 2024 season and subsequent offseason. So, they might be chipping some balls and just trying it and see how it goes this season without really telling anyone. I don't know. It would be nice to have it. I'd like to also keep the chain gang if possible. Not that they would be of any serious importance. It would just be nice to have somebody holding that. You got to have the first down marker there. It's got to be a thing, So we don't need to worry about them losing their jobs. I don't think that they Speaking of the 49ers, by the way, this went exactly the way that I said that it would go. It obviously got dicey there for a little bit, looking like maybe it wasn't going to go this way. But the 49ers and wide receiver Brandon Ayuk did come to an agreement, so that is officially done. As I said, the 49ers do this a lot. They got some pretty hardcore negotiations, kind of similar to the Green Bay Packers, where it seems like they just put their foot down. They're like, no, I ain't agreeing. You want to go out and find a contract, go find a contract. You think you can get that, go get that. And they can't get it. And they don't really want to leave because the 49ers are a good football team, and so they're kind of bluffing, and then they end up giving in, and the 49ers get to keep their guy without paying him a ton of money. So that went exactly as it was supposed to. And then finally, a couple funny little Vikings things here. This is via clutchpoints.com, written by Evan Damerel. I don't know. Mike Zimmer takes shots at former Vikings GM in a rant. Now, Zimmer is not a Viking. The GM is former GM, meaning he's not still there. A lot of the players are not still there, but it's still just funny to laugh at the Vikings for decisions that they made, especially since the coach that they fired seems to have the same tendencies as the defensive coordinator that they fired, which is a very self-absorbed, kind of a giant douchebag that treats his players like crap. But Zimmer kind of gave some insights into how things went, and he just hated everything. It was, and he's probably not wrong about all of it, although he is just kind of a scumbag. Let's see. While there were rough moments from 2014 through 2020, given Zimmer's blunt, direct nature, Zimmer focused on the 2021 draft. The Vikings had a quarterback, but Spielman considered a quarterback without telling Zimmer. This is a quote now from Zimmer. I walk in before the draft, and Rick is watching quarterback interviews from the combine. He hadn't told me anything. Normally, he always keeps me abreast of everything, and he and I were always good. The first round, Rick tried to trade up for Justin Fields, who hasn't done anything. Imagine that. Imagine that. You're just getting worked. The Bears actually saved you from that, so you can thank the Bears for that, although the Bears can thank you for Kwesi. I don't know. Maybe the Bears got payback by getting the GM that you wanted, although the GM doesn't seem to be doing much for the Bears anyways. After Spielman failed to land Fields, Minnesota selected quarterback Kellen Mond in the third round. He was the first of 4 third-round picks, along with linebacker Chaz Surratt, offensive lineman Wyatt Davis, and defensive end Patrick Jones II. When he picked Mond, I walked out of the room, Zimmer told Greg. I left the building. I didn't even talk to Spielman on the phone. Rick said the next day, are you mad at me? I said, yeah, I think you took 4 backups when we had guys that I thought were starters. From that time on, it just kind of got worse between us, and I'm not saying nothing was my fault. I'm sure there were plenty of things that were my fault. He goes on. This is after he finds out he's going to get fired. It says, fired after 8 seasons and a 74-59-1 record, postseason included, Zimmer was asked a question by ownership when he learned he was no longer the head coach of the Vikings. Quote, they asked me if I wanted to address the team. Zimmer said, and I said, hell no, they got me fired. He's talking about the players. In other words, do you want to address your team that you've led? Do you want to talk to these guys and let them know that you're leaving? Do you have anything to say to these guys that you are supposedly the leader and mentor of and all that kind of stuff? He said, screw them. Those D-bags got me fired. I don't want to talk to them. My goodness. He goes on to say, I can tell you I've not watched one Minnesota game since, Zimmer said, indicating that he's more than moved on. That he's more, I don't know, that maybe that was a sarcastic comment. Absolutely hilarious. All right, today is emergency day. I saw this as well, and maybe Vikings fans know who this is. Maybe they don't. I don't know. This is from purpleptsd.com. Kay Jowdry wrote this. Sam Darnold curveball, Minnesota may not be ready to hit. I'm thinking, what the heck does that mean? So I look into it. What is he talking about? The article starts off this way. What happens if Sam Darnold plays wonderfully? Not just solid, but a legit Pro Bowl level. Could he actually be kept around beyond 2024? Can I just plead with you, Vikings fans? Can I just plead with you for 1 second? Stop it. Freaking stop it. All right? Sam Darnold? Really? Why? Get excited about JJ all you want, but you have to stop it. This is nonsense. Look at this guy. Look at this guy. If you can't see him, if you're listening on the podcast, that's fine. We'll get there. Here's his PFF. He has been in the league for 6 years and has played for 3 different teams. At no point has he ever indicated he's anywhere near even a good quarterback. His best year statistically was his second year with the Jets, where he threw 3,000 yards, 19 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions. That was his best year. He had a 4.2% big-time throw percentage, which is not bad unless you look at the fact that he had a 4.4% turnover-worthy play rate. In 6 years, he's thrown for 12,000 yards. That's 2,000 yards per season. 6.7 yards per attempt, 63 touchdowns, 56 interceptions. He has a 3.7% big-time throw rate and a 4.1% turnover-worthy play rate. This guy is not good at football. His NFL passer rating over 6 seasons is a 78.3. His highest PFF grade was last year with San Francisco, where Brock Purdy looks like a god, and he had a 66 grade, and likely the only reason it was as high as it was is because he only played 55 snaps. His best season, where he actually played, like a full season, was his rookie year with the Jets, where he had a 64.7 grade. That went down to a 63, then a 58, then a 55. After that, he has not started. He played 162 snaps with Carolina. It was a 63 grade. 55 snaps with San Francisco. It was a 66 grade. He is a bad football player. You have to stop it. You've got to stop doing this. Why do you think that the Minnesota Vikings are going to be able to unlock Sam Darnold when he couldn't do it with the 49ers or 5 years prior with 2 other teams? He never even showed it for a single year. You have a quarterback that there's reason for optimism. It is not freaking Sam Darnold. The guy sucks at football. He's terrible. Okay? He's really bad. Could it be worse? Yeah, it could be Zach Wilson. I mean, it could be slightly worse. But, he's like a mid to low tier backup. This dude's not a starter. I'm just asking you to knock it off. Okay? I don't want to see this crap anymore. Just give it up. I don't know why I'm showing more compassion compared to Bears fans, where I get excited about this stuff, where I'm like, oh, it's going to hurt so bad when they find out. I'm just saying, you guys seem to be reasonable. This crap has got to stop. This is embarrassing. This is stupid. Knock it off. He's not going to play wonderfully. He's not going to be a legit Pro Bowl quarterback. It's Sam freaking Darnold. Knock it off. Thank you and goodbye. When we take our first break, we'll come back. We've got some Green Bay Packers stuff to talk about. And then I just want to kind of ease our way into the season a little bit, if that's all right with you guys. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. Kick off the 2024 football season with Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. It's the easiest way to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch your winnings roll in. This September, get automatic win every week by picking Caleb Williams to get just 1 passing yard. That's right, 4 weeks of free wins, but only if you jump on it before September ends. And don't forget, you can win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks even has injury insurance, so if your player leaves the game early, you're still in the game. I've been loving Prize Picks, my go-to for simple, fast, and fun fantasy action. When my picks hit, I get paid in as little as 15 minutes. Download Prize Picks now and use code PackDaddy to get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code PackDaddy for $50 guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. Remember, Prize Picks is a skill-based fantasy game, making your lineups just got a whole lot more exciting. U.S. Cellular has noticed the way we use our phones has gotten ironic. We try to put our phones down for dinner, but the menu's on a QR code. That's ironic. We hit like on social posts that we don't actually like, which is ironic. Which is why U.S. Cellular created Us Mode, to help us reconnect with each other and use our phones less ironically. A phone company wanting people to use their phones less is ironic. Let's find us again with Us Mode from U.S. Cellular. Visit uscellular.com/built-for-us to get started.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. From the launch your online shop stage, all the way to the we just hit 1 million orders stage. No matter what stage you're in, Shopify's there to help you grow. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/special offer, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/special offer.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
Forgot to mention this as a bit of a warning. Pro Football Network, for some reason, wrote this article by Alex Kennedy. Patrick Mahomes jokingly reveals that Taylor Swift has begun drawing up plays for the Chiefs. Why is this an article? I mean, this is a long article. He made a joke, but you know why it's an article? Because Taylor Swift was mentioned. So all I'm going to say is be prepared. And yes, I'm contributing to it. I don't care. I've told you before, I will continue to spread these things like crazy because anytime I get an opportunity to call things stupid, I'm going to do it. Be prepared for hearing Taylor Swift 24/7. Unfortunately, the first game of the season is the Chiefs. It should be a good football game, actually. It's arguably the two best teams in the AFC are playing against each other. The next day will be arguably the two best teams in the NFC, although we'll see about the Eagles. Packers, certainly. But instead of actually hearing how great the game is, you're going to be hearing about Pat. Listen, I know it's not the right thing to say. I know it's not. I want them to break up. Can they just do that? It's going to happen anyways. So let's just do it. Or get married and move on with your life. I don't know. I'm just saying, if it's going to end like Taylor Swift's 75 other relationships, just do it already, okay? Thank you so much. All right, why don't we... What should we do next? Let's do this. Josh Jacobs. Article written by The Athletic. Let's see who wrote it. Dan Pompei wrote the article. And the interesting part is the fact that we get a little behind-the-scenes, view of the situation that Josh Jacobs was in. And what I mean by that is he had lots of offers. He had lots of opportunities and lots of other places he could have gone, but instead came to Green Bay. Early last offseason, Jacobs felt a cold shoulder from the Raiders. Others, meanwhile, offered warm embraces. Among the teams that told his agent they were interested in signing him were the Bears, the Broncos, the Cardinals, the Dolphins, the Giants, the Packers, and the Texans. A most beguiling possibility was the Chiefs. Quote, this is Jacobs. They were trying to get me hard, he said, but there was no way I was going there. I feel like once you're rivals with somebody, you have a genuine hate for them. I couldn't see myself in that color, and besides, I never wanted to be the guy that joined the dominant team. I wanted to be the guy that beats the dominant team. Jacobs also said the Giants came in with an offer between $3 and $4 million more than he eventually accepted. One league source denied that, said they never offered him something, but I would trust that Jacobs knows what he's talking about. When the Packers offered $48 million over 4 years, he was intrigued, but he still pictured himself as a Raider for life. In his mind, his first team wasn't his employer as much as his home, so he gave the Raiders an opportunity to match, and they didn't match. He said, I didn't want to move, but I could tell that was over. There was much to be said for the Packers. Start here. They're not the Raiders, who moved from Oakland to Las Vegas after Jacobs' rookie year and have moved 4 times in 39 years. The Packers are the most stable, secure franchise in the NFL. Jacobs played for 5 coaches in 5 seasons with the Raiders. Over that same period, the Packers had 1 coach and have only had 4 coaches in the last 24 years. Think how crazy that is. 4 coaches in 24 years. It says, when you look back at Josh's life, God kind of groomed him to deal with the Raiders, Marty said. But now I'm excited to see how well he can do with stability. I am too. And again, with Josh Jacobs, you think about that last season, 2023. And maybe it is a concern. Maybe there's something wrong. Maybe, I don't know. But I think when you look at how good of a job Josh Jacobs has done in a situation where he's not only not had stability, he has not, there's a reason that he's had 5 coaches in 5 seasons. It's because they're bad coaches. There's no stability in scheme. There's no, solid offensive scheme to begin with for him to operate behind. Not to mention, he has not really had very good offensive lines to work behind. Not saying the Green Bay Packers offensive line is stellar, but there is stability. There's 5 guys that are not abysmal. As much as they may not be elite, they're not abysmal. And Matt LaFleur is good at this. Maybe it's a better passing offense than a rushing offense. But he is now in the best situation he's probably ever been in as a running back. So there's reason for optimism. It's the same thing with Jordan Love. Like, how do you know you're going to see second half Jordan Love? I don't know that. But I think it makes more sense than we see first half Jordan Love. That's what I think. And we'll see what happens, but it just makes sense to me when you look at a guy as talented as him, he's still young, to be able to come to this franchise that really knows what they're doing, just from top to bottom, from the offense, the scheme, the game planning, how to put guys in positions to succeed. On top of the fact that when you look at the offense, it is a passing offense, which I think benefits Josh Jacobs, because with the Raiders, it was a running offense, which means defenses only had to really focus on a couple things. They had a tight end for a while, and there's Josh Jacobs, who's probably the number 1 guy to pay attention to. So, very excited to see that things panned out. It's also cool to hear the background. I mean, the Packers didn't have to get it. Some teams wanted to offer him more. He wasn't going to go there. The Chiefs wanted him. They pushed real hard to get him. Packers ended up getting him. I mean, a lot is to be said about the organization, about Brian Gutekunst, about Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love, and the appeal of the franchise for a lot of different reasons. So I found that to be a pretty cool little article there. Be sure to check. A couple notes about some new Green Bay Packers. First of all, the kicker, Narvison, kind of an interesting note. He did a little press conference. You should check that out if you're interested. I'm not going to go through all of it. But one of the things that I thought was pretty cool was apparently his wife is from Wisconsin and her family are huge Packer fans. So they were talking about through the draft process, how cool would it be if you ended up as a Green Bay Packer? That obviously didn't happen. Went to the Tennessee Titans, and then through that ended up coming over to the Green Bay Packers. He said he told his wife, and his wife right away called her family, so they're all super excited about it. So that obviously is pretty endearing. As much as, I look at it and get nervous about the situation, I'm certainly happy. That's got to be an exciting thing. You think about, if by some chance you ended up knowing somebody who was a football player as a Packer fan, you'd be thinking, man, please go to the Packers. That'd be so cool. So very, very happy for that. Hope it works out. Hope he gets to stay for a very long time. And, best of luck. Some new Green Bay Packers. Running back LaMichael Pirine, 4th-year veteran who signed to the Green Bay Packers practice squad, is now a Green Bay Packer. LaMichael Pirine recently joined the Green Bay Packers as a member of their practice squad. Prior to the Packers, he had a brief stint with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He signed a 1-year contract in 2024, was waived August 27th, 2024. During the preseason, Pirine rushed 16 times, 46 yards, etc., etc. If we look at his PFF, bring that over here right quick, you can see he's played a little bit in the regular season. He actually has 105 snaps, 94 attempts for 340 yards, 3.6 yards per attempt, and 2 touchdowns. The majority of that came rookie year with the Jets. Remember, he was a 4th-round pick, so, I mean, this is not some random whatever. I feel like this is the year of the Packers really trying to revive something. They're going out and finding those guys like, hey, we really liked him. We were going to draft him. Now they're available. Let's just see what we can do. You know, Dillard and Pirine and I mean, even our kicker. There was a comment from Rich Bisaccia about he had done a lot of work on him, really liked him and everything else. Made a weird comment about he's got a great body. I don't know. Doesn't matter. We don't need to worry about that. But, yeah, they're going to bring in Pirine. It absolutely makes sense. He's 5'11", 216. He's got the Gutekunst build. So we'll see what happens. I mean, he's a practice squad guy. He might be here for 5 seconds. Who knows? Another guy that was brought in, fullback Andrew Beck. He's actually been around for a while. He was an undrafted free agent for the New England Patriots in 2019. Didn't really work out. He ended up in Denver in 2019. He played for them from 2019 through 2022 and then was with the Houston Texans in 2023. You may have seen there was a clip going around of him actually returning a kick return for a touchdown, which is hilarious. What's not so hilarious would be his PFF grades. His grades from 2019 through last year, 58, 56, 59. Then it dropped to a 48. He got let go. Houston picked him up, and it was a 50. So his 2 worst years are the last 2 years. His rushing and receiving are actually quite bad. It's interesting that he's listed as a fullback, but doesn't actually do a lot of that. If we go to the rushing, he has only 8 attempts for 6 yards, 1 touchdown and 1 fumble. If you go to his receiving, he has 13 targets, 11 receptions, 55 yards, 2 touchdowns. So he's listed as a fullback, but he plays more like a tight end than a fullback. So there's that. If you go over to his blocking, he has his run blocking, which is what you do most of the time. He has 515 run blocking snaps, 75 pass blocking. So I bring that up because, you know, you say, oh, he's a good or a good pass blocker, not a very good run blocker. You're like, oh, you can live with that. These guys don't do it very often, though. His pass blocking grades have been a little better, 65, 75, 75, 61, 66. His run blocking, 55, 55, 62, 51, 53. So it's not super good. If we go over to special teams, he had a 43 grade this past year, 42 the year prior. If you go to his kick returns, 2 kick returns, 94 yards, and a touchdown. So obviously he graded out pretty well with that, but I don't really understand it necessarily. Packers taking a swing. Maybe they're going to try to use him a little bit differently, see how it works. I don't know. It's been pretty rough. On the flip side, though, maybe the most exciting is Kamal Hadden. Kamal Hadden was actually on the radar this past year. He was a guy that we talked about that the Packers could possibly pick up. Tennessee cornerback, 6'1", 197 pounds, 23.6 years old. He was drafted in the 6th round by the Kansas City Chiefs. It was actually interesting because I was reading an article and they were saying it's actually very similar to what happened with the Packers and AJJ, where it's kind of a head scratcher. Like you drafted the guy and then you release the guy and then he gets picked up by somebody else. The Chiefs didn't use Kamal Hadden very much. He only played 22 snaps in the 3 preseason games. In those games, he got better, but it almost doesn't mean anything. 45, then a 51, then a 75, but that 75 PFF grade, his most recent against Chicago, was only 4 snaps. 2 run defense, 2 pass rush. So, for whatever reason, they just were not feeling it. They got a pretty good roster. Apparently just didn't feel like there's anything there and ended up waiving him. And they even had an opportunity, I believe, to bring him back on the practice squad, didn't even offer him. So the Packers end up picking him up. Obviously, he's a guy that they spent a lot of work studying. Must have not been super high on him. They allowed him to at least fall to the Chiefs in the 6th round. But when you got a guy like that, you at least want to get him in the building and see what he can do. So it obviously must have been really bad for him to end up where he is right now. But it'll be interesting to see what happens in the development of that. If he ends up sticking around, we shall see. All right, why don't we take our final break? When we come back, I just want to kind of go through week one. We haven't really even talked about it at all. What is the slate of games? And then kind of ease into, we got to do it a little bit quick because we got a Friday game this week as opposed to, Sunday or Monday. Ease into this Eagles thing, kind of get the groundwork laid. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
When it comes to towing, seeing is believing. That's why Chevy Truck's advanced camera technology offers up to 8 available cameras for 14 unique views, so you can focus on the view that really matters. Chevrolet, together let's drive. Learn more about Chevy Trucks at Chevy.com. Safety or driver assistance features are no substitute for the driver's responsibility to operate the vehicle in a safe manner. Read the Vehicle Owner's Manual for important feature limitations and information.
All right, so week one is officially here. I am trying so hard to be responsible and not pay for Red Zone. I want to impulse buy it so bad. And it's like, you don't need it. You don't need it. Leave it alone. Leave it alone. Leave it alone. So I'm trying to leave it alone. I'm perfectly fine being able to watch my one game for each slate. I don't need it. I don't need it. But this Thursday, we've got Ravens Chiefs. I'm actually really excited about it. I'm glad. I feel like, of course, I'm going to say this. I'm that dude. I feel like since the AI, the computers took over the scheduling, it's been significantly better. I can't tell you how many times we complained about Thursday games being stupid. The first game that starts the season just being boring. Bro, it doesn't get better, really. You could pick a couple others, including the Packers for Packer fans, but just leaving that aside, if you're not a fan of any team, Ravens Chiefs is a phenomenal way to start the season. Not going to dig into the injuries of that. We'll do that come Thursday. We'll briefly talk about it. And then Friday, of course, is Packers Eagles at 7:15 p.m. on Peacock. I actually just saw, I don't know if it was WTMJ or what it was, TMJ4, I mean. There's a local station, and if the local station's covering it, it might be online. I don't know how they're able to do this, and maybe it was a completely fake report. So just check into it, but don't 100% take my word for it. They said they're going to broadcast the game so you don't need to watch it on Peacock. I don't know. That might have just been some fake thing somebody threw on a Facebook thing. My wife sent it to me in a text. I didn't look it up. I don't know. It just popped into my head now, and I'm going to forget, so I'm just saying it. All right, leave me alone. Then we get a little bit of a break. We get Saturday to watch college, recharge our batteries, and then the Sunday slate. Falcons Steelers, we get to see Kirk Cousins against Justin Fields for two different teams. That's hilarious. Justin being a backup, but now he gets a special package because he's a running back. You get the Cardinals and the Bills, which should be an absolute drubbing, but we'll see what the Cardinals can do. Tennessee Titans, Chicago Bears also at noon. Going to want to look closer at that as we get a little bit, closer to Sunday. I'm worried that that's an easy win for the Bears. I'm hoping it's not. I'm hoping that the quarterback for the Titans can take a little bit of a step. Patriots, Bengals, I couldn't really care less about. Texans and the Colts should be another complete annihilation. Jaguars, Dolphins, don't super care, although the Dolphins are always kind of a fun team to watch if you just want to watch a team score a bunch of points. Panthers, Saints, good Lord, gag me. Then Vikings, Giants. So we got both of those games going at noon, Bears and Vikings. Again, unfortunately, as much as I talk trash about the Vikings, they go up against what might be the worst team in the NFL. And Sam Darnold probably is going to look like an MVP candidate, so we're going to have another whole week of that bull crap. We'll see, though. I think if we can get out of this with one of those teams losing, it's a win. I would prefer the Bears lose. I know I'm super anti-Bears, but the thought process behind it is the Vikings they're going to lose. The Bears actually have a chance. So if they could just drop one here, just get the ball rolling in the wrong direction, that would make me happy. Obviously, 2 losses would be great. More than likely, though, the Bears and Vikings are going to end up finding a way to win these games, and it's going to suck, especially if the Packers lose on Friday. Not that it matters because it's all going to sort itself out by the end of the season, but come on, man. I don't want to start 0-1 and have the Bears and the Vikings ahead and have to talk about, oh, maybe the Packers aren't that good. And then we've got the 3 o'clock slate of games, the Raiders and Chargers, absolute garbage football. The Broncos and the Seahawks, garbage football. You've got the Cowboys and the Browns. Unfortunately, the Cowboys are probably going to slaughter the Browns, but if they find a way to lose, that's going to be glorious. As much as, the lead up to this season, this entire week, it's just been nonstop negativity toward the Cowboys and how garbage their organization is. If they find a way to lose to the Browns, I am going to do a lot of laughing at the enemy because that's going to be glorious. By the way, I'm excited for laughing at the enemy. And then finally, Washington and the Buccaneers in the 3 o'clock slate of games. Don't super care about that one as well, although I'm a little bit curious about the Commanders and what they're going to be able to do. Then we get the Sunday night game, Lions and Rams. That's going to be huge. So I'm pretty excited about how this is spread out. It'd be nice if one of these games, if the Vikings maybe were pushed out into the 3 o'clock. But we get our Packer game. We got our noon games with the rivals, and then come Sunday night, we get to see Rams and Lions. I would lean Lions in this game, especially as it's in Detroit. Again, we'll look at that a little closer as the time comes. I'm just not super buying the Rams hype. There's a ton of it out there. I don't fully get it. Maybe it's just because the Packers have such an easy time. I don't know. But we'll see. And then Monday, you get Jets 49ers, which I think is, you started off great. I think you end it great. I'm very interested to see the Jets with Aaron Rodgers, just like I was last year. Hopefully he can hold up for at least 5 snaps this year. We'll see how Rodgers does. But, in all seriousness, it's a super tough defense. It is a quarterback that, it's been a long time since he was real good. It was, 2021? We're now in 2024 since we've seen, peak Rodgers. But, I believe that he's going to, with that defense and with the weapons that they have, be able to at least produce at some level, although it is the 49ers, and we know Rodgers and the 49ers is not a great combination. But I'm excited to see it. I just want to watch it. I am excited to see Rodgers again. And look, as much as I'm bitter toward Rodgers and all that, of course I'm rooting for the Jets. I just am. You pick whoever you want. My hatred for the 49ers runs deep. And if Rodgers is able to beat them, of course that's creates fear of the Jets. Although they're AFC, we wouldn't see them to the Super Bowl anyways. But man, that would be glorious if you could just stomp on their necks on Monday Night Football. Get the 49ers off to a bad start would be great. Get the Lions off to a bad start, losing to the Rams. If we can handle business, I feel good about that. So, anyways, that's what we got coming up this. All right, getting into the actual matchup now. What I did is I had the robot help me out a little bit, and what we're gonna do is we're going to look at all these articles combined into one. And what these are is betting articles. So rather than just talking about what beat writers are talking about, I want to know what people who are putting money on this game are talking about. I'm going to try to minimize the amount of time arguing because I haven't fully looked into it myself, although that could be tricky. So here is the overview. Green Bay Packers, Philadelphia Eagles, Friday, September 6, 2024, 8:15 p.m. Eastern Time at the Neo Quamico Arena in Sao Paulo, Brazil, broadcast on Peacock. The spread, it says 2.5, but as you can see, it depends where you go. There's a lot of -3 emerging. The line is moving in that direction. I don't fully understand why. Betting is a weird thing. A lot of different theories, a lot of wrong theories about that. But that is the case. You can also find 2.5, and then even, this is where it opened at -1.5. So it's 2.5 or -3. If you're looking to bet on the Packers, make sure you check where you're going because you can get better odds and better in different places. But they have it at 2.5 in favor of the Eagles, -110 for the whatever it's called. I got to get back into regular season form. I forgot all the betting terms and everything. Money line is plus 128 on the Packers. Eagles -152. Over under set at 48.5. Here are some of the things to take note of. Green Bay Packers finished the 2023 season strong, winning 8 of the last 12, including an upset victory against the Cowboys. Jordan Love emerged as the top quarterback, leading the team with an impressive stats in the latter half of the season. Packers performed well as underdogs last season, going 8-4 against the spread, as underdogs and 8-2 against the spread with equal rest. So they are underdogs. They were 8-4 in those situations and 8-2 against teams with equal rest, which is obviously the situation here. Green Bay upgraded the backfield, as you know. Defensively, they praised last year, which is kind of funny, but it is what it is. I think in points they actually did do fairly well. Eagles started 10-1, but faltered, losing 5 of the next 6, and were eliminated in the Buccaneers in embarrassing fashion. It doesn't say that, but I added that. Eagles struggled against the spread last season. They were 7-9-2 against the spread, 6-7-2 as favorites. That's appalling. A lot of that probably coming down to, down the stretch. Also, I mean, even when you're really good, they assume you're going to blow people out and you might closely win or whatever. This may actually tell us more than we're going to dig into today, but we'll look at that later. They also made key offensive additions, including Saquon Barkley and a revamped defense under DC Vic Fangio. Again, I am very skeptical of that. I think the Fangio defense has gone the way of the dodo bird, as they say. Not a one successful Fangio defense last year. But again, I'm trying not to argue. They also saw some key losses, notably center Jason Kelce, which might impact their offensive line's performance. Betting picks and predictions. Money line, Eagles minus 148. The Eagles are favored due to their offseason acquisitions and overall talent. Their defense, despite changes, is expected to challenge Jordan Love significantly. Again, we'll dig into that in a little bit. They actually go on to talk about their run defense, which is kind of abysmal. So something to consider if you're looking to start placing some bets early before everybody starts talking about it. Josh Jacobs is a guy to look at. Packers are going to look to really lean into that, especially early in the season. Everybody's not exactly in rhythm. If they can't stop the run, they are going to smash him down their throats 1,000 times, especially with nobody else really being ready. They don't want to put Emmanuel Wilson out there. They don't want to put the rookie that hasn't done anything out there. I'm just saying. The spread, Eagles minus 2.5. Eagles need to win by a field goal to cover the spread. Given their track record, this is considered likely, but the Packers' recent form and against the spread record makes this a close call. Total over-under, 48.5. Both teams have strong defenses and might take time to adjust to the game, especially considering the international location and altitude of Sao Paulo. This could lead to a lower-scoring game. I do want to look into that a little bit. Remember, I was making some excuses about them playing poorly in Denver, and I said maybe it's the altitude. You're not adjusted to it or whatever. Apparently, it really doesn't take long to acclimate, so I hope the Packers are out there early because they do need to acclimate to that air. But it takes, like 24 hours or something. It really doesn't take very long to fully acclimate. I don't know. We'll see. I'm very curious to see how that goes, but I just hope they're smart about that. If it is a very high altitude, they need to get out there as early as possible, make sure everybody's used to that, because that's going to be real tough if you feel like you can't breathe when you're playing football. Also put out some prop bets. Number 1, Josh Jacobs, plus 120 to score a touchdown. Jacobs is likely to score considering his history of finding the end zone and the Eagles' vulnerabilities against the run. Again, we may get introduced very early to our new buddy Josh Jacobs. I am hoping. I will look into it a little bit further, and we'll see. But right off the bat, if I try to think game plan, what would I do if I was the Packers going up against the opponent? That's my number one thought. Again, things are going to be a little rocky early on. Run the freaking ball. Jalen Hurts anytime touchdown plus 125. Hurts is expected to score given his rushing ability, particularly in goal line situations. And Jordan Love, 0.5 interceptions. Love may struggle against the Eagles' pass rush and Fangio's defensive schemes, making an interception likely. We'll see about that. Injuries are minor. We've mostly talked about all these. They have Marshawn Lloyd, who's perfectly fine, and then again, James Bradbury is a backup. He's out for quite a while. Dallas Goedert is significant, but he's going to play. I'm very sure of that. Conclusion. The Week 1 matchup between the Packers and Eagles in Sao Paulo is poised to be tight and strategic. The Eagles are slightly favored. The Packers' strong finish last season and their solid underdog performance make them a compelling pick against the spread. The game is expected to be close, with both teams showing potential to cover the spread, and the total points likely falling under the set line due to the defensive strengths and early season jitters. And I said, based on what you saw, who would you choose to cover and who to win? Here's what it said. To cover the spread, Green Bay Packers plus 2.5. The Packers finished last season strong and have a solid track record as underdogs, particularly under Matt LaFleur. They went 8-4 against the spread as underdogs last season, are facing an Eagles team that has struggled to cover, blah, blah, blah. The loss of key players like Jason Kelce and the adjustment required with the new schemes on offensive side of the ball could make it challenging for the Eagles to cover the narrow spread. But to win, the money line, Eagles minus 152, they went with the Philadelphia Eagles to win straight up. It says, again, going to try not to argue, the Eagles have a more established roster. Yeah, I suppose. And coaching staff. No. Despite some offseason changes. Their off-season additions, particularly on defense and with Saquon Barkley, make them a tough opponent. Okay. Philadelphia's motivation to rebound after a disappointing end to last season, coupled with their overall talent, suggests a slightly more likely to pull this off. Well, they're going to be motivated to rebound, just like every sucky team is motivated to rebound. But if you suck, it makes it hard to rebound. That's the whole question, isn't it? Can you rebound? That's the question I would ask anyways. Let's see. Pick the Packers to cover at 2.5. Pick the Eagles to win outright. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not necessarily persuaded based on the rationale of Mr. Senior Robot here. And I said, all right, give me a score prediction. It says, based on the analysis of both team strengths and weaknesses, as well as the expected defensive focus early in the season, I would predict a close, lower scoring game. Score prediction, Eagles 23, Packers 20. The score reflects a game where the Eagles managed to edge out the win, but the Packers cover the spread as expected. First of all, I don't think that's correct. But anyways, 23-20. We will try to remember that and revisit that when it comes time. I suppose that makes sense. I don't know where I missed it in here, but maybe it was in one of the articles and it didn't get pulled in here. What I don't like about the situation between the Eagles and the Packers is it seems as though the Eagles are being given credit for things, and the Packers to some degree too with the defense, but that's really the only thing, and it's considered more of a question mark. The Eagles are being given credit for things that they haven't proven. They're being given credit for all their new coaches, as though the coaches are going to fix all the problems. They're being given credit for the quality of the team, despite the quality of the play down the stretch. My general... Oh, and by the way, the secondary is significantly improved. Why? Because they have rookies. Okay. I'm sorry, we have rookies too. I don't really want them in critical positions like corner, if I can help it. That scares the crap out of me. I mean, Javon Bullard, I'm excited about what he might be able to do someday. I don't really want to hinge all my hopes on the defensive success on Javon Bullard. I would rather put it on Rashawn Gary and Jair Alexander and Kenny Clark and Devontae Wyatt and some of the other guys and hope that Bullard can be a slight improvement over what we had and be a complement to an already talented defense. To expect a rookie to come in and start locking down wide receivers like Reed and Watson, I don't know, man. I don't know that I'm just going to hand over the keys to the Eagles as having this elite defense based on a bunch of unknowns. By the way, this super tricky Fangio defense, remember the last time, well, I don't know if it's the last time necessarily, but the last time the Packers played against Fangio, he was the Chicago Bears defensive coordinator. Packers didn't really have a hard time against him. I shouldn't say that. They certainly had a hard time, but they freaking beat him. And it's not an unknown thing because it's the same defense that we had here in Green Bay. And it's the same defense that a lot of other teams are running, and the Packers have had a lot of experience against it. Unlike the Eagles, who are going to go up against Jeff Hafley, which is not what they're used to. It's not what really anybody's used to. You've maybe faced some kind of sort of similar defenses like the Ravens or things like that. But you haven't really seen Hafley. You get a peek with the 49ers or the Jets or the Ravens or whatever, like I said, but this is a different thing. But again, they just get credit for something that we don't. It's just a question mark, and it gets put in the positive column. The new coaching staff is positive. The rookies are all positive. Why? Why is that automatic? So my overall thought process is, if the Eagles are back to their form, and the Packers are what they are as far as how they ended the season. So the Eagles get beginning of the season, Packers get end of the season. I could see saying Eagles by a nose, because the Eagles were really good to start off. Eagles by a nose, fine. But now add in the variable of the fact that it's possible they're still dog crap. To me, if I were betting, it just feels safer, because if they're dog crap, it's an auto win for the Packers. If they're not dog crap, it's basically a coin flip for who wins this game, because it's two really high-powered teams. So why wouldn't you just take the really easy route and say maybe the Eagles have not just magically fixed all their problems? I've been saying this for months. I just don't know how we can paper over what they were last year and pretend that that didn't happen. Pretend that everything's just better now. Pretend that what we saw in the beginning of the season is just automatically what they are. Why? Well, they had some bad coaches. Okay. How do you know the new coaches are going to be better? I mean, here's another way of looking at it. Those coaches who were supposedly bad led them to be the 10-1 team that they were. Those coaches that made them 10-1 are now gone. So why do you think that they're going to be what they were when they were good last year, when all those coaches got fired? But we don't want to look at it that way. Okay. Again, it seems unlikely that you could look at the Eagles team and say that they're not going to be good at football. That does seem like a bit of a stretch. But I don't know how we just make it automatic. If you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, let me pull it up really quickly here. Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback. The offensive line, especially on the interior, is a bit of a disaster. There's an opportunity there. They got two good wide receivers, and that's it. They have a tight end that's pretty good. I can't guarantee you he's going to be better than the guys that we have, though. I mean, I know Dallas Goedert, it's like, oh, how dare you? He's a premier tight end. He's a top 3 tight end. No, he was 16th last year. Okay? 16th. And Saquon Barkley was 35th. All this talk, and this is the other thing. I think that there's just so many assumptions. And, some people are giving the Packers their flowers, so I don't want to sit here and play the victim card the whole time. But the fact of the matter is the Eagles are being given so much credit for name recognition of guys that maybe used to be something that they're not anymore. Dallas Goedert was 16th. Saquon Barkley was 35th. Saquon Barkley is not a top 5 running back any more than Dallas Goedert is a top 3 tight end. It's just not a reality. They have 2 good wide receivers. The Packers have 4. I don't know if the Packers have anybody as good as Brown. I think they might have 1 or 2 or maybe 3 as good as Smith. Okay? Who has a better corner situation? Well, if we just assume that Quinion Mitchell and whoever else they got, not Isaiah Rodgers, is they're just going to be elite football players, well, then maybe you'd go with that. I would choose the Packers' more established group. Defensive line, certainly a scary group. We'll see if Brandon Graham can do it again. He stayed at the top of his game. He ranked 15th as a pass rusher last year, which is impressive considering he's 36 years old. You got Bryce Huff on the other side, kind of a inconsistent. He's played 4 years. Only 2 of those years he's had enough snaps to actually rank anywhere. He is with the Eagles now, ranked 25th last year. We'll see what he can do. On the interior, you got Jalen Carter, who as a rookie was just tearing stuff up. I mean, it's a scary group. The Packers have some pretty talented players too, though. At linebacker, I would probably take the Packers. At safety, I would take the Packers. At corner, Packers. Again, defensive line, yeah, maybe you give it to them. Offensive line, Packers. Tight end, I would probably go Packers. Wide receiver, I mean, if you're obsessed with having a top wide receiver 1, then you go Eagles. If you're more interested in depth, you go Packers. Hurts or Love, you take Love. Barkley or Josh Jacobs, I take Josh Jacobs. Why? Because Josh Jacobs had a down year last year where everybody thinks that he's washed because of what happened last year. He barely got edged out by Saquon Barkley, and it was the only year in Josh Jacobs' entire, 5-6 year career in the NFL that he was worse than Barkley, and it was barely. It was barely. He's been better than Saquon Barkley every single year he's been in the NFL. It's a neutral site. And, I don't really believe in Vic Fangio. I think it's maybe the best version of this defense you're going to get. But I don't know. I just, that's the other thing is they're in a 3-4 defense. That's something that I really need to look into. I mean, look at the Minnesota Vikings. When they switched to a 3-4, you've got this guy, Danielle Hunter. He's an absolutely dominant pass rusher off the edge with his hand in the dirt, and then all of a sudden you tell him to stand up as an outside linebacker. Next thing you know, you got to trade him away. Why are you doing that? I don't know, but they really wanted to go that route, and so here we sit with these guys, and we'll see how they can do. But I don't personally understand the rationale. Again, I will dig deeper into this and see what more people are saying. I don't know why we just say, yeah, Eagles are good. Did you see how crap they were the second half of the year? I'm not talking like they faltered a little bit. I'm talking maybe bottom 5 team in the NFL bad. You know that's gone now because they hired 2 new guys, a mid-defensive coordinator whose time has already passed. His little window of being this elite mind is gone. And an offensive mind that's what? I don't know. You think he's going to match with Matt LaFleur? Cool. That's great. But I'm not so sure about all that. Anyways, I'm going to leave it at that. Let me know your thoughts. Call in. Packers or Eagles? What's the score? Let me know. I'm out of here. Bye-bye.
America's name they used to say, but every year it's the same old play. A blue and silver, but the skies are gray. In the playoffs, they always fade away.